Bow. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing the second feedback breakdown. This time we'll be looking at an illustration submitted by one of the members of my Discord community. This whole breakdown is going to be split into two videos. In this first part I'll go over the illustration itself, what works, what feels unclear, what kind of problems the author pointed out, and then I'll do a bit of analysis and sketch several thumbnails. Basically, the way I would approach this kind of problem myself. In the next video, I'll move directly into repainting and developing the idea further up to a colored sketch. The whole process took me around 8 hours from the first feedback pass to the final color sketch. I couldn't spend more time on it, unfortunately, but I think it should be enough to show the direction. So, what can we say about this illustration? First of all, the piece is really pleasant to look at. That was my immediate reaction when I opened it for the first time. Of course, now I already know the backstory, I've read the author's notes, I've spent some time analyzing the image, but if I try to return to that first impression, it was a very positive one. The colors are soft and appealing, the mood is gentle, we see two characters and there is clearly some kind of close relationship between them, maybe friendship, maybe something romantic, but either way there is care, trust and support. The overall atmosphere feels warm, fairy tale-like, kind of almost comforting. Yes, technically the piece is still rough in places. There are enough technical issues here, some unfinished areas, some unclear forms, some problems with space and focus. But those issues don't destroy the first emotional impression. The image still communicates something soft and intimate. And because this is an illustration, the next thing I naturally try to understand is what exactly am I looking at? What story might be behind the scene? At first glance I see something like an elf, a fairy, or a forest spirit gently touching the hair of another creature, maybe some exotic kind of mermaid or male river spirit. The relationship feels safe and trusting. The whole image reads as calm and harmonious. Emotionally, it feels light. My first guess actually was something like, okay, maybe this is a forest nymph taking care of river merman. Something in that direction. Then I read what the author actually sent and what kind of feedback they were looking for. The author wrote that they wanted help improving the sense of dimension in their painting. They were not fully satisfied with how the characters interact with each other and with the scene around them. They also felt that the image was a bit flat, that the characters were not strong enough as the focal point, and that they struggled with deciding what to render, how to keep lighting in mind, and how to preserve the original feeling of the piece. So, right away, we have several questions packed into one message. The first one is about the sense of space. I'm not completely sure what the author means by dimension here. If we're talking about aerial perspective, depth, and the readability of foreground, middle ground, and background, yes, there are some issues. Not catastrophic, but definitely something that can be improved. The second question is about how the characters interact with each other and with the scene. And here I would separate these two things. The intention between the characters themselves is not my biggest concern. I can read tenderness and intimacy between them, but how they are placed inside the scene, that is where we have more serious problems. And we'll get to that in a bit. The focal point issue is also very relevant. The composition does not fully support the main idea yet. And then there are some broader questions about lighting and preserving the original feeling. That part is harder to answer directly because I only see the finished image. I don't have the earlier sketches, so I don't know what exact feeling the author wanted to preserve compared to previous versions. Now, we could immediately attack these technical problems. make the space clearer, improve the focal point, fix the lighting, define the forms better, and so on and so forth. But there is an important question here: would that actually make the illustration significantly better? Because this is an illustration, not a concept art. Concept art is often a production tool. It lives in the back end of a project. Illustration is different. Illustration is usually the final product. It is made for the viewer, so its priorities are different. An illustration should create an emotional response. It should tell a story, communicate an idea, reveal context, make us feel something. Technique and rendering matter, of course, but they matter as part of the larger goal. The author's voice, the mood, the storytelling, the way the image is staged, all of that becomes extremely important. So, before we decide how to fix this image technically, we need to understand what the task the image is supposed to perform. What is the story? What moment is being shown? What should the viewer feel? That's why I asked the author for more context. I wanted to know who these characters are, what happened to them, what kind of relationships they have, and what exact moment the artist was trying to capture. To summarize the backstory very briefly, the light-haired character is Noelani, a minor goddess of sun who once ruled over a lagoon. She had a conflict with an older and more powerful god, and that god manipulated her human friend to harm her position and weaken her power. So Noelani suffered from this betrayal, but her friend suffered even more. As a result of these events, he was cursed. He is gradually turning into an amphibian-like monster, moving further and further away from his human form and possibly dying or disappearing as a person. He was used, he was broken, and now he is paying for something that was not really his fault. So, once you know the story, the image becomes much darker than it first appears. It is not just a pretty fairy girl who cares for a river boy. There is a betrayal here, there is a loss, there is injustice, there is tragedy. And that is where we get the first major gap between the backstory and the current image. When I look at the illustration without reading the text, I don't really feel that tragedy. I don't see much suffering in the characters' faces or body language. I don't feel it in the environment. I don't feel it strongly in the color palette. The scene feels soft, beautiful, and peaceful, but not painful. Of course, we can't demand that one image explain the entire novel. A single illustration has limits. You can't squeeze a 3-volume epic into one frame and expect the viewer to decode every political betrayal, curse, emotional nuance, and family tree. The image will just collapse. So the job is not to show everything, the job is to choose. From all the backstory, we need to extract a few key ideas that this illustration can actually carry. Maybe it's a specific emotion, maybe it's one dramatic moment, maybe it's a contrast between the characters, maybe it's tiny visual clue that makes the viewer curious and pulls them deeper into the story. Good illustrations often work like that. You see a single moment from someone else's life or from some other world, and something about it catches you. You don't know the full story yet, but you want to know. You wonder, who are these people, what happened before this, what will happen next, why does this scene feel so important? That feeling, that little hook in the soul, is one of the signs that illustration is doing its job. So for this piece, I would define the main goals like this. The first one is empathy or compassion. We should feel for these characters, especially for the cursed friend. He's not a monster in the moral sense, he's a victim. He was used unfairly, and his monstrous appearance is not punishment for inner evil, it's a tragedy imposed on him. The second goal is contrast. There is a contrast between the two characters. She is almost an embodiment of light, while he reads as something darker, heavier, more tragic. It has Beauty and the Beast flavor, but with an important difference. In the classic Beauty and the Beast structure, the beast's outer form reflects the inner flaw, and the story is partially about moral transformation. Here it's different. This character is not a villain becoming good. He was good. He remains good. The tragedy is that something terrible was done to him. So we want contrast, but not good girl versus evil monster, more like light and tenderness meeting darkness and suffering. This contrast can also exist between the characters and the environment. They can become a small island of warmth inside a darker, colder, and more threatening world that would help the illustration carry more of the backstory without needing to literally explain it. And the third goal is privacy. This is one of the things that the author mentioned in the messages, and I also think that this scene could benefit from feeling more intimate, almost like we're quietly witnessing a private moment. I'm absolutely on the same page with the author on that one. Now, with these goals in mind, empathy, contrast, and privacy, we can look at the composition. And for me, the biggest problem in this image is composition. Not rendering, not anatomy, not lighting, but the basic placement of elements. Right now, almost the entire important part of the image is concentrated in one area. If I divide the canvas diagonally, most of the meaningful content sits in one triangular corner. Both characters, their faces, their interaction, the strongest contrast, the main emotional information. The rest of the image is mostly open space, water, background, and the long tail of the darker character. That empty space is not automatically bad. Empty space can be powerful, but it has to do something. For example, imagine if that open area contained a hidden threat. Maybe someone is slowly approaching from the background, moving through the bushes towards the two main characters. Maybe they don't notice it yet. Maybe the scene is about a peaceful, intimate moment that is about to be destroyed. In that version, the empty space would become meaningful. It would create tension. It would tell a second part of the story. Even then, this exact composition would probably need a more elegant solution. But at least the space would have a function. Right now, though, that doesn't happen. The open area doesn't carry enough story, tension, or visual weight, so the composition becomes unbalanced. A simple way to feel this is to imagine the image as a pair of scales. Put the left half of the composition on one side and the right half on the other. Now turn on the gravity, what happens? The side with characters crashes straight to the floor and the other side is catapulted into space. That tells us that the visual weight is distributed unevenly. Why? Because the two characters hold almost all the contrast in the image. They have the strongest tonal contrast, strongest color contrast, most interesting shapes, the faces, the human figures, and the emotional interaction. Naturally, our eye goes there, but both of them are tucked into the same corner. Meanwhile, the rest of composition gets mostly a river going into the distance and a long tail. If the tail and the river are the only reason for that large area to exist, then one very logical solution would simply be to crop the image tighter. The main scene is already there. But if the author wanted to show the full design of the cursed character, especially the long body and tail, then the composition needed to be built around that from the very beginning. The tail should not just occupy space, it should participate in the composition. This is exactly why thumbnails are so useful. A thumbnail forces you to work from general to specific. It makes you solve the big relationships first. At the thumbnail stage, I can think very simply. I have one light, bright character who will naturally attract attention. I have a second, darker, longer, more complex character. I have this long tail. So the question becomes, how can I arrange these elements so that the tail becomes part of the visual flow? Maybe it can curve through the image and guide the viewer's eye back towards the character. Maybe it can create a rhythm. Maybe it can keep us inside the frame instead of letting the image tip toward one corner. The point is to use the whole canvas more effectively. Think of it a little bit like a dance. When dancers are given stage, they don't spend the whole performance cramped into one corner unless that is the actual idea. They use the space. The composition has to do the same. If you choose a canvas, you should use the canvas intentionally. And the thumbnails let you test those intentions quickly. They keep the work abstract enough that you can experiment without getting buried under details. Because once you render everything beautifully, the hair, the flowers, the colors, the expressions, it becomes emotionally much harder to admit that the whole image does not work. You did all the work, and now the foundation is wobbly. A very unfortunate feeling. So thumbnails are not just a beginner's exercise, they're a way to avoid wasting effort in the wrong place. Now when we talk about balance in composition, people often start throwing rules at you. Golden ratio, rule of thirds, sacred geometry, golden everything, and eventually it starts sounding less like art advice and more like a freaking religion. Those tools can be useful, but if we simplify composition to its core, most of the time you're really working with contrasts. Contrast is the main tool for directing attention. It can be tonal contrast. Most of the image is dark and suddenly there is a light shape. It can be color contrast. It can be shape contrast. Many sharp, angular, aggressive forms and then one soft, round form, for example. It can be contrast of rhythm, texture, line direction, scale, density, detail, emptiness. All of these contrasts create points of tension, and points of tension attract attention. Anything that attracts attention gains visual weight. So, in a very practical sense, you distribute visual weight through contrast. There are also some elements that have unusually high weight by default. The human figure is one of them. Imagine a landscape, fields, trees, a castle, maybe some mountains, maybe a road. It can be beautiful and interesting, but the moment you place a person in that environment, especially a readable figure, that person becomes a major visual anchor, especially if they have a spear, because apparently fantasy people are contractually obligated to carry one. Why does this happen? Because humans look for humans. We are wired to notice faces, bodies, gestures, gaze, directions, social signals. A human figure in an image almost always carries a lot of compositional weight. Even the direction of a character's gaze is also a strong visual vector. A character looking somewhere can push the viewer's attention in that direction. One more useful thing, especially if you want to understand composition more deeply. Look at the abstract art, suprematism or similar movements. I know sometimes people see those works in museums and think, okay, cool, someone drew a black rectangle, a few lines, a red blob, and now we'll have to pretend it's profound. I get it. But from the point of view of composition, those works are actually very valuable. They reduce the image to the basics: visual weight, contrast, rhythm, tension, balance, and attention control. There is no character designed to distract you, no lore, no anatomy, no cool armor, no dragons, no other fancy shit, just shapes and how they affect your eye. And when you start seeing them that way, they become much more useful. They are almost pure exercises in controlling intention. And wherever you have attention control, visual tension, rhythm, and contrast, you also have emotion, even without literal storytelling. So, the more you study composition at that level, the easier it becomes to understand why certain images work and why others feel unstable. With that little detour out of the way, we now have enough information to move into thumbnails. A little disclaimer before I get down to the thumbnails. I actually was narrating the thumbnails live. I did it in Russian, because when I tried to do it in English, I either was able to sound comprehensive and stop painting, or I would start painting but talking nonsense at the same time. So basically now I will have to just overdub myself in English, trying to somehow fit my narration. If it sounds a little bit too rough and unpolished, I'm sorry. I will try to come up with a better pipeline next time. Okay, so right now I'm not setting myself the task of properly describing the character or expressing the character in detail. When I work on thumbnails, I try to think as much as possible in terms of spots and masses. So, roughly speaking, if I have some kind of a silhouette that vaguely reminds me of human figure, that is already enough for me as a strong starting point. It lets me focus on higher level things I was talking about earlier. And again, sorry if some things here could be done cooler, more creatively, more elegantly, and so on. Of course, they could. But I also have other work tasks, and unfortunately I can't spend all of my time on making a full finished illustration for this feedback, at least not for now. So I'm working without references here, I'm working live, just figuring things out as I go. Obviously, because of that, I can make more mistakes than I would if I had a targeted reference board and more time. Let me try to work with the idea I showed in the beginning. So we have our goddess somewhere here, and the body of our first character is somehow wrapped around her. Maybe she's holding her leg in some elegant way, something like that. And when I've thrown down just a few of these basic things, I can already start working with them inside this small composition. The only thing is, once you place all these frames, it's better to move this to a new layer. Now I can take these spots and play with them a little bit. This is one of the main advantages of working digitally. You can make some really bold moves very quickly. You can grab these masses, stretch them, rotate them, look for slightly different angle, a slightly different composition, change things very fast. That's something you absolutely don't have in traditional media in the same way, so you should use it. Here we create a kind of a backdrop for our female character with this darker character. She's all light, and this character is, in a way, darkness. Right now I don't want to render too much or go too far into details, because we have solved two spots, and now we need to create everything else. So I'm pulling myself back immediately so I don't start sitting here and drawing tiny details. Now I'm trying to understand, okay, where are they? What is happening? So I'm taking another brush, one that is more convenient for slightly translucent things. I can go to a layer underneath all of this and just suggest some atmosphere. We need to place them into some kind of space, we need air to appear in the image. And we need to understand, okay, she's sitting somewhere, right? Where is she sitting? Maybe there is some small island of dry land. Now I start getting an idea in my head, and maybe behind her we can place some kind of a tree, something like this. Again, at this point it's not a tree, it's a spot. But that should be enough for me to start thinking in that direction. Okay, in my head this is a tree, or the trunk of some tree. All my thinking right now is very graphic. I'm trying not to overload my brain with too much information, I'm trying to solve the base. And at every stage I look at it and check whether any imbalance has appeared. So far, the central thing I built at the very beginning is still here. It still works, I haven't interfered with it yet, that's important. You made a few correct moves, you placed a few correct, important foundational spots, and then with every next action you try to support them, not destroy them. You try not to break what you've already built. Sometimes I switch to other brushes. This brush I'm using is very graphic. First of all, it has very hard edges. When you draw, you get very clear shape. It also has strong dynamics from thin to thick, and with just a little stronger pressure, it goes full opacity. That's good for sketching, for cutting forms more graphically, but this other brush lets me do softer, airier things. It blends better, and I understand that I can set up some atmosphere with it more easily, without too many hard edges starting to distract my brain too early. Okay, now it's important to make the character sit on the ground. At this point, abstraction starts moving into the background a little. We're slowly migrating from abstract spots into something more factual, more physical. Maybe the water is here. Let's try to take some darker color, not too dark, but a little darker, because the water will basically be darker. And let's suggest that there we have some kind of a bank or shore or something. The thing I immediately don't like is this area here. It creates a contrast that pulls attention, and we don't need that. We can pull attention away by playing with his tail a bit differently here, giving it another form or finding another shape. And of course, when I'm speaking through my thoughts, part of my brain goes into explaining what I'm doing, so the process goes much slower than when I'm warmed up and fully focused on the work. But that's not very important, the point stays the same. And another very important thing I'll point out right away, you probably should not try to be very fast at this stage. This is a trap I've fallen into myself. Like, oh my god, you were drawing just thumbnails and you spent 5 hours doing them. And what did you get? 2 good thumbnails? Honestly? Like, literally, who cares? If they really are 2 good thumbnails, then you solved half of the work. It's almost a solved composition already. You literally completed the most important task that needed to be completed. If it took 5 hours, great. Next time, if you do this often, it will be faster. The task is not to follow some process someone described somewhere, like, okay, I sat down to draw thumbnails, I have exactly 1 hour for thumbnail research, and in that hour I must produce, I don't know, like 5, 6, maybe 10 thumbnails because I'm a professional and this is how it's supposed to be. And then if you don't fit into those standards you invented for yourself, everything starts falling out of your hands. Drawing is a mental practice. It's literally a form of active meditation. If you end up in the wrong mindset, that's it, you're done, you're lost. The work is already difficult by itself and you've made it 100 times more difficult for yourself. So throw away all this stuff about what you owe to someone or how you're supposed to evaluate yourself. And believe me, I'm saying this because I suffer from it all the time myself. But suffering from it is useless. There is zero benefit. Your task is to make it good. At this stage, your task is to solve your problem. If right now one thumbnail takes you 8 hours and all you get is this tiny little picture, but this picture answers 1,001 question for you, and you see that something in its foundation already works and you like it, that's it, you win. Throw all the rest of that garbage out of your head. It doesn't help you at all. Right now it takes 8 hours, next time it will take 7, then in a week or 2 it will be 6, then 5, in a month it might be 3 hours, and already several images. And later it becomes that 1 or 2 hours where you throw down several thumbnails that actually answer the task. So that's the principle. Now, when we draw images with a lot of organic forms, it can sometimes be hard to understand what is happening with perspective. You don't have many perspective guidelines, you just don't have clear guides. You don't understand what you're drawing, where are you, what year it is, what the camera angle is, all that stuff. All that information kind of slips past you. And it's very easy to get lost in that. So sometimes you can pull yourself back and ask, okay, what is happening with my perspective? Where am I? That's why I drew this line here, this shoreline, and now I basically understand that the camera is slightly from above. Maybe our horizon line is somewhere there. maybe somewhere here. So we're looking slightly down. The camera has kind of dipped its nose. Now I look at this guy and he's extremely strange. With her, I understand things a little better. I understand what kind of pose she might have. I look at these spots and try to let my brain draw something for me. You know, like when you look at clouds and start seeing shapes in them. Yeah, I'm doing the same here. I look at the spot and think, okay, I'm starting to understand how I can place her. What the pose is, I see that maybe her hand is resting on him. Something is happening here, I can invent something. But when I look at him, I have problems. Right now, he's lying on his stomach, and I don't like that. He looks strange. He also needs some kind of pose that will leave him at least some dignity, because right now he just looks like a shapeless piece of crap. So I start forming this spot. I basically have two colors. I start playing with the idea that maybe I turn his head first, lay it somewhere on her knees, something like that. Again, I'm using two colors. I'm not bringing in more colors yet. Maybe she could tilt her head a little toward him. Maybe she could somehow hold this head and turn towards him. I don't know yet. Yeah, just let me figure it out. I will shut up for a bit and just draw and think, because doing both at the same time is kind of hard. Okay, now I'm trying to sink him into the water a little, so I don't have to break his body too much. It would also be strange if he crawled out like this, although he's probably very uncomfortable. And I think maybe I can try building this picture the other way around. I mean, turn his body in the opposite direction. Because right now he goes underwater at this angle, like this. And then it creates a very strong curve if I wrap him around this way. A large part of the body would be on land, and that probably feels strange because he probably should remain more underwater. So it may be better to lead him this way. I'll try that now and we'll see. There are difficulties like this sometimes when you work with creatures, but you shouldn't spend too long fighting a problem that doesn't work. You should experiment and change something. Here I tilted the trees and tried to preserve this slanted rhythm. I'm not sure yet if it works or if it's a good idea, but we'll see. When you make thumbnails not for characters but specifically for illustration, you can very quickly end up with an excessive number of values. Values accumulate very quickly. But the main thing is to watch them. Check that the values themselves don't become uncontrolled. Don't zoom in too much and try to maintain hierarchy. You can have many values overall in a thumbnail. You can have half tones and so on, but the planes have to read. The important thing is not to obsess over whether you used 5 values, 10 values, 30 values. The important thing is which values are on which plane. The background, middle ground and foreground should contain a certain spectrum of values that allows to read them well. And you can put some extra effort managing the values in the focal areas. I think my horizon line roughly sits around there. So the main character's head is basically near that line. Let's bring the water closer, like around here. So maybe her legs are in the water. Something like that. Here I'm already suggesting maybe with tonal differences the approximate line of the water. This is very important so it is clear what is above the water and what's below the water, and to explain how the body of our guy is placed here. For that, of course, you'd better have some visual experience with scenes like this, so you understand how water interacts with objects that are submerged in it. Here we can show that his body goes somewhere this way. The water is darker here. I can now play a little with horizontal marks. This leg can be almost completely hidden underwater, just enough so it is vaguely readable. We can add more of these spots on the surface to strengthen the feeling that it is water. And here is a delicate moment. First we need to define the shore properly somewhere. We can make it like this. Let the water still be here, uneven, organic. A little bit underwater here. and maybe his tail comes up to the surface around here. It's important to make this readable even in the thumbnail, because if this idea is readable in the thumbnail, later you can push it however you want. You can develop it beautifully. If it's not readable in the thumbnail, you can leave it with the thought, well, I'll just zoom in and fix it later. Very often you zoom in and it simply gets even more problematic, because the base idea did not read, and now that you're zoomed in, you just have even more stuff to deal with. So I'll try to just go and sort out the mess now. And now I can actually get down to trying to shade her a little. Let's try. Maybe we can also frame her with a large, heavy tree behind her. That feels too deliberate, maybe. Maybe something like this works. Like here is a big tree and its roots go down into the water. And again, I'm trying to break this edge to show that all of this is being submerged into the water, so it reads properly. And overall, because our horizon line is somewhere there, I can darken this a little, suggest some light gaps here and there, mark some things, and maybe also prolongate, like add more water here. Maybe also suggest some little islands there, just for the sense of planes and perspective. Here, of course, it's a little hard to figure out exactly what's happening. Maybe some parts of him has surfaced, like here, some small elements. This part is underwater and this has surfaced. And I probably wouldn't make him especially beautiful. I wouldn't try to preserve beauty in him. I might make him more disturbing, more brutal. That would strengthen the contrast with the female character. And now I can already start seeing that this thumbnail works for me in many ways. Again, there was no like shamanism with a huge number of layers and all that stuff. We can also push the values a little with curves and then think about another option. And here we can finish this area. Her hand rests on his head. Yeah, like this. I'm not going into any nuances of how her face will look and so on. For now, I don't need that at all. It's enough that I made a thumbnail where the main number of questions is solved for me on a high level. And this thumbnail already took around like maybe 40 minutes. And I think this is fine, especially with narrating. And if someone runs up to me and says, like 40 minutes, it's a nonsense, you should have already done this and that. Like I definitely have this kind of dialogue in my head, but you just don't need to react to it. Not because it absolutely doesn't matter, like time matters. It's just more because this whole dialogue is absolutely meaningless. If you work slowly, yelling, "Work faster," into your own ear doesn't make you faster. It just makes the task you could have solved faster if you had focused, calmed down, and simply solved them worse. And you become even slower. To actually become faster, you need to perform the task slowly and properly more often, up to the point where it is actually completed. If you do that often enough, you actually gain speed. And it doesn't matter what anyone tells you. If right now you don't feed someone's speed requirements, then fine, right now you are not efficient enough for that speed. Who cares? Finish the task, do it well regularly, and you will become efficient. It is only a matter of time and practice, as usual. Okay, let's make one more option just so we have another variant. I understand now I'm not going to make 4 thumbnails, definitely, but I'll make at least a couple just to have some variation.
It seems that we've arrived here once again, a bridge to cross for only you and them. There's no light to be had, only darkness instead. I'm afraid. I know you won't stay, so I just wait to be had. I'm afraid it's too late to be sad, too late to be sad, too late to be sad, too late to be sad.
And I got a little carried away with the second thumbnail, but I think the idea is more or less clear. And to be honest, I actually like it better. I didn't try to bring this second thumbnail to this level of finish for no reason. I did it just because the first thumbnail read a bit more easily, because it was easier to distinguish where the water is and where the greenery is. Here, because the shot is more focused on the water, and because there is this underwater scattering, some caustics and various effects, it is always a little harder to show. So I had to spend a bit more time just to make it readable even as a thumbnail. And in general, at this point, we can say that we have a couple of thumbnails that read well enough. It is more or less clear what is happening in them, and from these we can already start developing the illustration further. And one important thing, of course, your characters will not stay this black and white. You're just using these conditional values for now as a base, where you clearly can separate one character in a high value key and the second character in a low value key. And this is how you oppose them to each other. The rest of the details comes later. And I think at that point we're coming to the end of the first video. In the next one we'll take the first thumbnail and push it to the colored sketch phase. I actually went with the first one just because it was closer to the initial image that the author sent. Looking back at it, I actually think that I should have proceeded with the second one. But nevertheless, the point is just to show the process and the steps and the way of thinking, so I think it will still hold the same value. Thanks everyone for your attention, hope you found it useful, and I will see you in the next video.